Let's go, let's go, let's go. Alright, people wanna hate every day, it's okay.
All right, welcome back, Reckless Success. Tonight we got my beautiful wife, Lesa, on.
Hi.
Hey, baby. And we're going to tell some stories and then tell you about our past week, which was actually great. We went to Legoland, a family trip that we talked about on a previous episode. Lisa's itinerary worked out perfect. I don't know if you want to go there first or hold off on that, but I did want to commend you on how good you planned it because it was a good trip.
It was a great trip. It really was perfect. Legoland is a 10 out of 10 trip. We would go again. Jesse does not like to travel, and you like to go on trips, I guess, but like the whole like major kid place, I was worried you'd be like, this freaking sucks, and you didn't. So if he loved it, it's a great place to go.
Let's just jump right into it since we're already on the subject. Yeah. Legoland, I was thinking, was going to be so kid-friendly.
Which it was.
It was kid-friendly, but it also was adult-friendly. Yeah. So I was thinking no smoking, no drinking.
They thought of everything at this place. Yeah. It's an hour from Tampa, hour from Orlando, and Winter Haven, Florida. Right. Also in California, and I think Kansas. But anyway, we went to Florida.
Free tickets to Legoland next time because it was expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But they've got a hotel and an amusement park all on the same site. So basically your kids, if they're old enough, could go from the hotel over to the park.
Yeah, like we have a 14-year-old and a now 5-year-old. He just turned 5. So our 14-year-old could definitely have gone with like a friend or cousin to the park without us if he wanted. Because it's right there. It's
right. It's all on the same site. And then
it's pretty small. And
they had bars, or you could just get a drink at Legoland, which we didn't do. But you could just get a drink and walk around with like an open container. Yeah. Go from ride to ride. I don't know. I guess Six Flags does that.
They don't. Most theme parks don't allow alcohol. I think Epcot and Disney does, which is more, I feel like, aimed towards adults, geared towards adults anyway, because it's like, I don't know. I guess they have a couple of rides, but not really. Right. It's more educational. And Busch Gardens in Tampa, I think you can get a beer, but I don't really drink at theme parks.
Right.
But I think they're only open from like
people from puking, probably because there wasn't a lot of roller coasters.
Right,
at Legoland.
Right. I don't know. I wouldn't want to drink out in the sun at a theme park, but some people might. It's not like people are getting drunk, but right. I think it's only open from like 10 to 6, so they probably know no one's gonna go there and get plastered. Like you might have a drink with your lunch or something, but I think the hotel was the nicest part because they thought of everything and like the way they set it up, like they had all these different play areas for Legos, castle things, like themed areas for the kids. And nearby there was a restaurant or bar near each play area. So your kids could play, and you don't have to drink alcohol, but even if you want to sit at the bar and have a Sprite and a tea and your kids are over there acting crazy, I had to get on to some kids. These kids were going crazy. Jesse and I were outside, and you could see the kids playing through these big glass windows. They literally thought of everything at Legoland.
There's so many kids, though.
So many kids.
We
were enjoying
like 10
the weather.
o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It was late.
So we were outside, and the kids were inside, and some of these kids, they had these like foam swords because it was pirate themed for the hotels. They were pretty hard. And we noticed these like 3 young boys bullying up on this one young boy like aggressively, and I keep waiting for one of these kids' parents to come out and stop this, and like no one's coming. We were outside the glass, and I'm like, I can't take it, Jesse. So I freaking go in, and I'm like, that's enough.
They were going so hard,
I was like, stop it, and they all stop in their tracks. But this one kid's about to cry. He's like, huffing and puffing, and I was like, are you okay? He's like, yeah. And I was like, you guys are acting like bullies, and there is no bullying at Legoland. And they're like, yes, ma'am. And they're like shaking their head all scared. But I'm like, where are their, like, I understand the parents are chilling, but like, are you not even watching at all? Like, 3 of these kids are like viciously attacking this poor boy.
How old do you think they were?
Between 6 and 8.
6 and 8. And
7 and 9.
These kids were throwing full on
They
haymakers.
were aggressively
beating
each other
up.
One
kid had his head down. 3 of them around him just throwing swords.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know, you'd look around and you'd see, like, all these Lego statues, and you'd see kids climbing up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all
and there's
over
signs
the
everywhere like, don't climb on this statue or this pirate ship, which I didn't even know about the pirate ship. Everybody's climbing on the pirate ship.
Right.
But despite the one mob action situation, most of the kids are playing nicely. Chill environment, good kid-friendly, adult-friendly music. Everything was good. Good food. All the customer service. Okay, I am blown away because everywhere is so bad. People that work in customer service these days hate their lives. They don't smile. They don't say hello. They don't say, how's your day? Like, they act like you're a big inconvenience when you go to order fast food or walk up at a gas station or anywhere. And I was just shocked. I mean, there's all these kids, so these people working have to be internally annoyed, right? But no, you would never know it. They were friendly, accommodating, everyone
Right.
from the restaurant staff to the hotel workers to the amusement park staff, like happy. They must pay well at Legoland because
And whoever done the 3D print, not the 3D printing, the wallpaper, like the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
hotel was wrapped in Lego.
decked from
Yes.
ceiling to the carpet was
Yes.
themed. So we are in the pirate side of Legoland Hotel, and I mean decked out. And even in the hallways, they had Lego built. What are those called? Not lanterns, torches
Yeah.
lining the pirate side, and they were glowing like real fire, but they were made out of Legos. I could go on for days. That
And-
place was so good.
I was also impressed because all over the place are these big Lego statues. I just thought, well, those are 3D printed to look like Legos, but
Right,
it's
'cause
really
they're-
a
it's
statue
hard to
because
believe.
how the hell are they going to keep it from breaking apart? No, all the structures and statues were real Legos. How they glued them together, I looked on the outside to see if there was any glue in the cracks or any,
You Google that.
I
I'm
guarantee
assuming,
they put it on the nipples. They put a drop of glue
Oh, it
and
would
then
take
squeeze it in
so
there. It's got to
long.
be it because they were individual Legos.
They were incredible. I mean, I don't know. If you're my friend in real life, look on my Facebook. I posted lots of pictures, but the Lego towers and fixtures were unreal. And the rides were excellent. We all had fun from adults to 14-year-old to 5-year-old. Great time. I mean, I would go back, but I do think it was super expensive. We had to fly there 'cause we're in Southern Illinois, and then a hotel, 2 days at Legoland, all the food and stuff's not included, so you're paying for all that. I do kind of think going to like an all-inclusive, like some of our friends did that with their young kids in Mexico, like a kid-friendly resort,
Right.
would probably be several $1,000s cheaper and similarly as fun. Like it would be, I mean, Legoland has its own thing because it's Legoland, but like, I think they had a lot of fun in Mexico too.
Right.
Something
See,
to
I
think
didn't
about.
ask what we'd spent on that trip.
Jesse
I
has no
usually just
idea.
spend. Lisa will be like, that costs this much. And I'm like, oh, well, I got 3 of them if you want one. Or I bought 2 extras.
Well, it helped because I booked it like long ago because I planned
Paid for
ahead.
it.
So yeah, we paid for it, part of it in the fall, and then I paid for another part, and
Then you got the flights.
then
you
yeah,
do-
so it wasn't like this huge. It didn't seem so
Right.
bad, but
That's the way to do it, too. If you plan a trip, book your flights. There's $1,000, so you pay that off.
$1,000, a little
How
more
much?
than that.
I have no clue. Lisa books all her flights. But whatever they are, book the flights, and then you pay that off. Then usually your hotel you'll pay when you get there or whatever. Or you can reserve it or pay it
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
But it's easier to do it. That's how we do the guys' trip kind of too. We book the hotel
Right.
early, book all the sleds.
And bigger flights.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but it was good. We recommend Legoland for
the
sure.
food, they had like 3 restaurants,
Mhm,
and I think it was like Shipwreck that we went to.
mhm.
Right when you sit down, it's family style. So they brought out rolls, and then right after that, they brought out big old bowl of salad, that the
Mhm.
4 of us could eat, put on our plate. So the food was just like right away. It wasn't go in and wait in a line and sit. I like that too.
Yeah, all
I
the
like it when
service there
things-
was great, but we had reservations for all that stuff too. But
We did?
that's why we got in so quick.
Yeah. Well, see, I
took
thought
care
we
of-
just walked
I
right
took
in.
care of all that.
No, I did want to give you, what is it called?
I don't know.
Credit?
Yeah.
Give you credit because we got the fast passes for Saturday.
Friday.
For Friday. That
First day at
meme.
the
That just
park.
reminded me of that
Sorry,
meme.
I'm just
Tell
making
him-
sure you're giving.
Tell
it.
him about that meme.
I would almost send this to Jesse, and then I didn't because I knew he'd be like, "See," and it was like this husband and wife sitting there, and the husband was saying to the wife something like, "You've been telling me that I'm wrong for the last 28 years," and then the wife cuts in and says, "It's been 29 years." Just because I'm a factual person, like
Right.
I really care about facts and like the truth. Like I can't lie. Like I like honest, factual statements. So I just want to make sure that you're being correct because Saturday was the pool day, so Friday was the park day.
So now that we've got that cleared up, The fuck were we talking
The fast
about?
passes
The
on
fast
Friday.
passes were awesome because we would just walk up to the exit of each ride and bam, get right on.
Yeah.
We just walk up, bam, got that fast pass.
You could
baby.
do one day at Legoland with a fast pass and do the whole park and not have to
Yeah.
do the whole 2-3 day extravaganza, like,
for sure.
because even though it's expensive for the fast pass, it'd be worth it. You'd knock it out.
And I'm telling you, we didn't wait in any long lines without fast passes, but there were people waiting in line, and bam, we show up. They put us on. I could just see the looks in everybody's eyes, like
Well, you're
he's
those
looking at his
annoying
wife.
people.
No, he's looking at his wife like, why the fuck didn't we get fast
Because
passes?
they'll sell out, so you have to buy them ahead of time.
So
you
that's
can't
another
show up
thing.
and buy them.
Even when we got there, all the people that worked there were like, how did you get fast passes?
Yeah.
And Lisa's like, oh, I got them a few days ago. And they're like, that's crazy. Nobody ever gets fast passes. Like, how did you do that? So good job, baby.
Thank you. I'm glad the
was
trip
sweet.
worked out great. I did have a sinus infection, but it didn't affect the trip, but it was a drag. But there was an urgent care down the road, so it was fine, but I'm still getting over it, so I probably sound like it.
I just treated her like she wasn't sick so that
Yeah.
way she wouldn't feel sick.
That's how you always treat me when I'm sick, as though I'm not. So I just have to keep pushing through. But no, it was good. Thanks for working so hard and taking us to Legoland.
Oh, we did that, baby.
Hmm.
What, didn't somebody message you and ask to tell them about how we met? You
Yeah,
want to talk
so-
about that?
We've got I think at least 2 people have messaged us and asked like clarification on like, how did you guys, not how we met, but how we got back together, because we dated in high school and then we broke up, obviously went our separate ways. And I think people don't really know, like, so how did you guys both end up back here together? So we could tell about that, because it is kind of, I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of bizarre, I guess. So after we broke up when I was 19, I was in college at SIU, or John A, I guess, a local community college. What?
You tell your side and then I'll tell my side.
Yeah. I'm sure they're very different. So we split up. I was at Johnny Logan Community College, and then I went to SIU for 2 years. And then I graduated, and I was just bartending. So me and some friends moved to Florida to get out of Southern Illinois and get out of bartending and stuff, and did that. So I lived in Florida for like 3 or 4 years. And then I worked at Capital One and like credit card, and my department was shutting down. They were putting everyone to Richmond, Virginia. So you could either move to Richmond or you don't have a job, or you could go to a different department. But like, really, that wasn't like my career. Like, I didn't want to work at Capital One forever. I knew that. It just didn't light my fire. So I'm like, I'm going to look for other jobs. And so I'll shorten this up. I met my friend's dad, who was a commercial insurance sales guy, was telling me how they had a claims office in Tampa where I lived. So I was going to apply for that job, but then they also needed a sales rep. And I'm not a salesperson, and I've always known that, but I am an outgoing person, and I love people, and I love talking. So I worked in debt collection, which is pretty much like sales, and I did great at it because I just like to talk to people, and so they'd pay me their debt. So I thought, if I can do debt collection, which is brutal, I can probably sell some insurance, right? So I went through this rigorous interview process. It was horrible, torturous, like the longest interview process ever. Got the job. Awesome. Had to go to Minnesota, train for 7 months, lived up there. And then when I was ending training in 2014 in Minnesota and knowing I was going back to Florida to work, Jesse was getting out of federal prison.
Were we talking at that time?
I don't
Had we had
remember.
much contact? Maybe a little bit. Like you wrote
So
me.
minimal. So we had
I wrote you a
written,
couple letters.
we had
and
written
you
a
never
few
responded.
letters. No, I did respond. We written a few letters when I lived in Tampa still before this new job.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got in trouble for having that relationship inside,
girl.
and you got in like 8 months of like the hole or something.
Yeah.
So you just kind of, not that like I was worried
just
about it,
disappeared all
but
of
you
a sudden.
disappeared, and I have my own life going on. So I didn't think really much about it, honestly.
Right.
Like, oh, no letter from Jesse, and I just
I
went
was
about my
laying
life.
in my bunk singing like songs about being away from you, and you were like, "Oh,
I mean, yeah, I'm just living my life. I love living in Florida. Tampa's a great place to live. So we had talked then, but there was a big gap of not. So then I think you called me when you got out, and I was in Minnesota on my training, and you're like, "It's Jesse. I'm back. I'm home." And I was like, "What?" So we chatted then, and I was coming home in Southern Illinois to visit on a holiday weekend.
July 4th.
Over July 4th, because in my training, I had to go to Florida to do like in the field commercial training, sales training, and then go back to Minnesota. This is a rigorous program. So on the long weekends on holidays, I would fly home to see my real family in Southern Illinois. So Jesse and I saw each other that weekend. But you already had that girlfriend, didn't you? Or not yet?
No, it was the
I
first
saw you
day.
twice.
No, it was the day I went on my first date with a girl. She dropped me off because wasn't on house arrest.
How did you have a date? This guy, talk about Rico Suave, had a date while he's on house arrest. Straight out of freaking prison.
I was on house arrest and I was an operator, and there was this girl that was an operator, so we were going to go on go on a date. I swindled a date out of her. So we went on our date, and I had to be home because they would call
by like
at
9.
And this girl's like, drops me off, and literally like 20 minutes later.
No, because I met
30?
her.
You met her?
Remember we had a beer
Oh, yeah.
out by your mom's pool? Because Jesse's back to living in his mom's basement at this point.
I was back to showing off my girlfriends to you. Why do we have that pattern?
So, and I didn't care. So I had got like a 6-pack of beer to have a few beers and see Jesse. And because
How did that play out? Because you stayed the night, right?
Yeah.
She was there.
And she left.
So we went on the date.
Because I was supposed to be staying down the road at my friend's.
Me and you. I talked about Lesa already, I guess. So I've got to now. Lisa's in town. I got to see Lesa, but I've got this first date with this girl. So I guess I took the girl on her first date to meet Lesa at my parents' house.
Messed up. But what's funny is you didn't tell her I was your ex-girlfriend, because I remember you had to run inside probably to take your call from the prison, and her and I were just chit-chatting.
Once again, you got caught in the bathroom with one of my exes.
Yeah, but like I didn't care. I wasn't planning on moving home. I didn't plan on being with Jesse. Right. I truly was just seeing you as a friend that I care about, like who just got home from prison, who I haven't seen in so long.
But you know I was looking good.
But yeah, like we'll have to put up the picture of you in your socks and sandals. That was this night.
All right. Was it that night?
For
it
sure.
was, yes.
That's so funny. So we'll put up this picture.
So I was looking good.
But Jesse had run in, and so I was just chatting. Like I don't put my foot in my mouth. I guess I do, but I literally just like to chit chat. So like you're gonna know all things about me, and I'm gonna be asking you all kinds of questions because I'm curious, not because I'm like trying to put you on the spot. I'm just like to know about people. And so at some point,
see somebody with a crazy eye and be like, "Oh, is your eye crazy? What happened to your eye?" I'm like,
no,
she won't do that.
So I mentioned something to the girl like, maybe she was like, "Oh, how do you know Jesse so well?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, we dated back when I was young and he was young, and it's been years, blah blah blah. We always stay close friends." But I guess he hadn't mentioned that we dated. You just said I was an old family friend. Right. So like. You told me later, she was like, "So that's your ex-girlfriend that I met?"
So
like,
somehow, how did all that pan out? Because you must have been there. Like how I had two girls coming in.
We're probably so shady. You probably had me leave, and then she left, and I probably came back to hang out more with you.
No, for sure. That's what happened. But I remember me and
Which
her.
Which isn't my norm. I'm not some shady type of girl. But
I've got priority over that. Anyways, we were in my bedroom, and Lesa was leaving. So that's what happened. You come over, you meet my new girlfriend. I hadn't seen you in years. We all got together for a little group hug. And then as you were leaving, my stepdad and my mom were out on the porch. And you talked to him, but you could hear it clear as day from my room.
And you were still with the new girl?
And the new girl's with me. And they were like, "That's the one that Jesse should be having over," or something like that. I remember.
The one that got away.
Yeah. And I'm like... Now I've went from saying that she's my friend to now she found out that you're my ex, and now she hears my parents.
That's
I'm like,
the girl.
Well,
she's the one for him.
So she left. We were bad. We had this orchestrated. She left, and then right when she left, like 20 or 30 minutes later, here comes your car whipping in. And you stayed the night, which, like I said, got priority over that.
Are you trying to say that like I take priority over everybody? Is that what you're trying to say here?
So after she come over for that night, then I had a little dilemma on my hands. Now
but not a real dilemma.
Hold on. You tell your side and I'll tell mine.
I have my whole life going on. So like it's not really a dilemma. So we hung out, had a great time. It was great catching up. see ya, I'm going to Florida and then back to Minnesota to my sales training job where I'm going to have this big ass career making tons of money. So I finished my training. I came home a couple more times over the summer on long weekends. I think it was Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day that we saw each other. And then I'm in Florida, South Florida. And this job is like crazy. It was so stressful and intense. And I was doing great. And I hated it. I hate sales, but I was killing it. So I was making all this money. And I always thought if you make a bunch of money, like that was always my goal in life. I think because I grew up without having a ton of money. And I wanted to clear that up actually. So I've said before, like how I supported myself, and I did. But I don't want, I recently met a young woman that really like truly supported herself. Like her parents didn't even put a roof over her head, you know, and she had to work to like eat food. My parents weren't like that. My parents are good people. They were divorced. So like anyone who has divorced parents knows like sometimes on one side you don't have a lot of money going on, and that's fine. Like I'm grateful for how I grew up because I know how to make money and I know how to work hard. So like I had no choice but to work as soon as I could to, if I wanted a car, if I wanted more than like the basic clothes, if I wanted to go out with my friends, if I wanted to get my hair done in a nice prom dress, like my parents would do what they could, but my mom was a single mom. So child support only goes so far. You know what I mean? So I wanted to clear that up. I wasn't like some neglected child,
Right.
but I did have to work to have extras. And that's just the truth. But so anyway, so I said all that to say, I thought if I had a job where I made a lot of money, every happiness follows. That's all you need is money, is what I always thought, because it just, I don't know, I guess I never had it in flux that I thought that was the answer. So I started making a ton of money, and luckily I was smart enough to put most of that money off my student loans. So I was like chunking, I'm making like $8,000 a month. Student loan payment, savings, student loan. Like I wasn't going on trips. I wasn't going shopping crazy. I was paying off the debt I had and stocking it in savings, thank God. So I was doing really well, but I despised sales. I don't know why. It's just not my thing. So like within, I don't know, 9, 10 months of that job, I was like, I can't do this. Like it was messing with mental health. I'm an upbeat person. I'm a happy person. And I was not myself. Like it was my first experience with like depression and knowing what that really feels like where I told my sister once, like the commercial for medication, which I never took anything, but like where someone's like looking out the blinds and it's like bright and you can't go outside. I'm like, I feel like that. I gotta quit this job. Like this isn't me. So I had a dark moment. And then I was like, so I'm going to make a change. That's what I think you got to do. If you are in a rut, like we've talked about, you got to do something about it. So I decided I'm going to go home to Southern Illinois, figure out my next move, which was if I was either going to Little Rock where my best friend lives or to St. Louis where a lot of my other good friends live, to like move on, make a move, figure out my next career move, figure out what to do with myself because I was like in a funk. So it's nice to be able to go home to figure that stuff out. Jesse and I have been talking on the phone a bunch, but like still, it was super unrealistic that we could ever be back together. You know what I mean? It just didn't seem to make sense. So I got a U-Haul. I had some friends help me packing up all my stuff, like scheduled, and I had to get my car back to Southern Illinois too. This is like an 18-hour drive.
This is not at all how I remember all this, but go ahead.
Okay. So my plan was to drive a U-Haul towing my car by myself because I just do stuff by myself. Like that's how I roll. That's fine. And I can do that. And my dad and stepmom were like, ooh, like this is a bad idea. That's super dangerous. And looking back, it was like, that's crazy. I was going to drive on the interstate by myself with a U-Haul towing a car, but I was going to it because that was my only choice. And so I was telling Jesse all this, and he also was like, this is that's like dangerous. Like you've never towed a trailer or a car, you know, like and drive a U-Haul. Like that's like super sketchy. And he offered to come fly down to help me drive back. You don't remember this way? This is like
I
how
mean,
all of this played out.
You're making it sound like I was just offering to come down. It was more, I'll tell my side when you get done. Go ahead.
So
Go
I mean,
ahead. I want to see where
obviously,
your side goes.
we were talking a lot, and like I was interested in pursuing something with you, but in my conscious mind, I knew like in what I thought was Southern Illinois has nothing to offer me. Like, what am I going to do? Get a job that makes minimum wage? You know what I mean? Like, there's just not a lot of opportunity here.
Right.
And to me, coming from a city, I'm like, I don't know. I felt like I wanted something to work out with us, but I also thought this was like where that my original plan was come here and figure
Right.
it out,
For
not
sure.
come here and do what. So Jesse offered to come down and help me drive it up, but he was on federal probation.
Hmm.
So we had to get approved leave from his probation officer to do this. And he had just started an apprenticeship with a union, which you have to be what? Is it 2 weeks? You can't miss an hour of class or you
Correct.
kicked out?
And I flew down the
So it was
week
in the
between
middle.
classes. So I had a week of orientation. On Friday when I got out of class, I went and got on like a little puddle jumper airplane, flew to St. Louis,
Yeah.
flew down
This
to
guy
meet
who's
you.
been in prison for like 6 years and hasn't done anything, and now I've got you like on these plane trips all the way to Tampa.
At
Or
the
Fort
time,
Myers. It was Fort Myers.
I'd been on a permit, so I'd been making decent money. And I remember my dad being like, dude, what are you doing? I got you into this. Don't fuck it up. What are you talking about? You're going to Florida. Like, you got to be at class on Monday.
Because
And
he was
I
going to fly down Saturday morning. We were immediately driving back through the night to get back on Sunday.
It was like 20-something hour drive.
Yeah, and then you had to be at class Monday morning. So they're
Yeah.
like, what if it breaks down? And you're like, and I was like, we'll take my car off the trailer and take my car home and I'll figure out the U-Haul like
Right.
by myself. So that's what we did. So Jesse flew down to drive home and we did it was exhausting drive. I did drive the U-Haul part of the way. It was a long ass trip and we did actually have tire trouble on the U-Haul and had to stop where in like Tennessee.
Yeah, coming right into Chattanooga, coming over those mountains.
Yeah. So thank
When-
God you're with me.
We left in this U-Haul, and it's shaking like a motherfucker. I'm like, Lisa.
Craig's had been sleeping for hours and I've been driving us through the
No.
Atlanta.
When we left Florida, I walked around the U-Haul. I checked it. It had all brand new tires. I'm like, we're good. We took off, and the U-Haul was like shaking, and I'm like, what the hell? But whatever, it was going. By the time we got to Chattanooga, we came over the mountains, and we came down that mountain. And
We drove all through the night.
yeah.
Oh,
And I just want to clarify something. Lisa did drive for a long time, but she also is a strategic driver partner because she'll count the time changes. Like, we'll leave here
whatever.
and then there'll be a time change and she gains an hour.
Lies.
And I'll wake up and she'll be like, well, I've drove 7 hours. And I'm like, well, I've only been asleep for like 5. So how the hell did you get 7? And she'll
Bullshit.
just get those time changes.
But so I actually have pictures of us like you under the thing with the tire. I think they came to help us though, because you can't change the tire on that.
No, so we come out of the mountains and this thing was shaking so bad that you couldn't drive it.
No,
And we're still in Tennessee. This is Sunday,
it was Mother's Day.
Mother's Day, Sunday morning, and we're in some little town and I got out and looked, and both insides of the tires were just down to the wires, like whatever
So they
that's shaking.
called U-Haul and they sent someone to fix it, right? To put new tires
Yeah, somebody came.
on a Sunday. Thank God.
Yeah, it took
That was like that
probably
moment where
4
it's like, well, at
hours.
least we're only 4 hours from home if you had to get back for your class.
Right.
But we made it. We made it back late afternoon or evening, exhausted. And so we drove the U-Haul straight to Jesse's rental house, which my stepdad at the time had a house that was vacant in a town nearby. So I was going to rent that from him until I kind of figured out my plan. And so we took the U-Haul to Jesse's house, crashed, to sleep. And then I never left. And then we just
Been
like
here ever since.
after a few days, we started unloading the U-Haul into Jesse's rental, and
Right.
now here we are.
She found me in a piss poor state. I'm not gonna lie. Like, remember the dingy chair that I had, and
Oh.
what dog I had? Like, was that Chi Chi?
It was Chi-Chi.
There is no way.
It
Our
was.
dog.
She was little. Our dog.
She
We
was
still
just
have.
yeah, and I think I found that chair on the side of the fucking
Oh.
road.
And hey,
like-
he didn't even have like a bed frame, which is just kind of sad because this is like real life coming home from prison, and luckily he had family to help in some capacity. Like, they're not going to be able to like, here, let's furnish a house for you. You're a grown man, right? Like, they have their own stuff going on. So you had a mattress on the floor, and I was about to laugh at that.
I had
now
a damn.
I feel sad.
I had a box spring too. It wasn't just a mattress.
I
It was
don't
a box
feel
spring.
us.
It had a damn bed skirt.
It was the worst mattress ever. It was so uncomfortable. But like, I was like, why is your mattress on the floor? But I don't know. You were just starting out, so it's just a weird thing to be like 30 and starting over from scratch, coming from prison. I guess I hadn't really thought about all that. Not that I cared, but like I was like, what the fuck? So I'm like, get this bed out of here. Let's move in my bed with the headboard and the,
Right.
the nice dresser and the
So when Lisa and I got together, I remember this. I was making like 1,500, 1,000 a week, 1,000 to 1,500, depending on what hours I
working
was
for
working.
the operators union,
Right.
which
But
is good. You were doing pretty
I was
good.
doing good.
You were doing great
I
for
mean,
coming out of prison. I mean,
yeah, and rent was low. My rent was like 600.
Yeah.
It was a nice little house.
bedroom house.
2-bedroom with the bed on the floor.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't want to talk about that house for a second. So my house, I get home from prison and I'm like, shit, I need to rent a place. So I had the job at the union and I was working like 7/12s or something. So my checks were really high. They were like $2,000 a week, bring home. And I had no credit or nothing, but I needed a place. I got I'm on federal probation, you know what I mean? I got a PO showing up.
Yeah.
So I just looked in the whatever and I found this house. It was for sale.
Right.
It wasn't even for rent. And I called the lady. And this is actually now a big,
She's like a major real estate.
yeah, Mongol.
Right. Like she's not a broker. She owns the real estate company and she did then also, but she's grown to this like, she's a major player in real estate. Like I would say one of our, probably the top real estate company in our area.
For sure. So I call her, but it was before she had that business. She might have had
She did it, but she wasn't as big as she is now.
Yeah.
Because this is what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, this was way before
So
the office
she's
and
grown a
Marion.
lot. Yeah.
So I call her, the house is for sale. I'm like, hey, I don't have the money to buy a house and I just want to rent it. And she's like, well, it was just remodeled. And she's like, I'll meet you over there. She meets me over there. She's like, how's your credit? And I was like, And I didn't tell her that I just got out of prison because it's like, you don't want to tell somebody that.
And her significant other is actually a state police.
I didn't know that.
But
though,
you didn't
at
know a
the time.
detective.
Yeah,
Undercover
he's the
agent.
undercover agent, state cop. So I got his wife over here, and I'm home from prison, and I talk her into renting me the place. But she
with
was
your
like,
pay stubs, right?
with my
Because
pay
you had
stubs,
proof
yeah.
of so many months of like these high checks.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't have nothing for last year's work, anything. So she's like, how's your credit look? And I was like, it looks horrible, but here. I was like, this is what I make a week. And I showed her, and she's like, oh yeah, you're good. You can
Find the lease
have
here.
this. So I rent it from her. And then one day, so my PO would show up, and he was usually in an undercover car, and I hadn't met her husband. I didn't know who she was or anything. And one day I hear a knock on the door, and I look out, and there's this cop car, but it's undercover, like plain, it was like maroon even. And I open the door thinking it's my PO, and it's this guy, and I was like, oh, hey, and I'm thinking I've got to take a piss. And he was like, hey, and the guy's awesome, but like he has the cop car, but he doesn't look the part
He
because
had
he's
that
undercover.
persona, yeah.
So he had
That
like the
chill
long hair,
guy.
kind of like a rocker, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? And the guy's like, hey, I'm here for that money. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like I have no clue.
Like I'm not about that life anymore,
Yeah,
man.
like what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, I own the place. And I'm like, oh, so okay, so you're a cop. And he's like, yeah, I'm an undercover detective. And I'm like, fuck, I just got out of prison. I'm renting a fucking house off these people.
Not that you're doing anything wrong, but it's just like that scary feeling like,
Like shit, I don't want to get kicked out already.
Yeah.
So I'll give it to the guy though for being a state cop. One day he was up on the roof and he was cutting limbs. The neighbors, which is our buddy. So the neighbor's my buddy Steven.
Oh yeah.
And so the cop is up on my roof, his house, and he's cutting limbs from Steven's tree coming over, walnut tree, and he's hitting the roof. So he's cutting the limbs off. And Steven comes out, and I hear the landlord up there cutting them, and then I hear all this yelling, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And Steven comes out because he was working night shift.
Oh.
He's mad that the landlord's cutting the trees in the daytime, and he's down at the bottom like screaming up at this dude, and the dude's undercover. He's got the long hair. He's a little bit older, but Steven, he's like a smaller guy. So I'm like, shit, like
About to go down.
in my head, I'm thinking, tell my buddy, because Steven, I went to school with him. I'm like, Steven, he's a cop, because
Stop yelling at him.
Steven's at the bottom ladder, like yelling, like, I'm going to fuck you up. All kinds of crazy
Oh,
shit. Yeah.
no.
Motherfucker. And I'm waiting for the state cop to call back up. No. he's like, I will get down there and I will fuck you up. And they were like yelling up back and forth at each other. And I'm like, I'm trying to tell my buddy this is a state cop.
Diffuse it.
Diffuse it. I'm like, shit. So give him points for that because he wasn't about to call his buddies. He was coming down the ladder.
He wasn't like, oh, rest your ass. He's like, I'm going to beat your ass.
Yeah, I was breaking it up.
That's funny.
So yeah, where were we going? We rented that.
So that's the house we moved into that you were living at.
Right.
So what's your version of that story? Just that I was coming home to you?
My version's totally different. My virgin, whatever it is. My version is that when we broke up a long time ago,
2007.
Lesa told me that she didn't want to get married or have kids until she was 30.
Did I?
Yes.
I probably did. That sounds like something I would have said back then.
You did.
I moved home when I was 28.
So then my version of the story, I'm in the halfway house. Lesa is like this distant unicorn that I had always wanted. I fucked it up in high school, but it was so far past the point, like we didn't have, or I didn't have feelings for her when I was around her of, well, I mean, I did, but I wasn't acting on feelings when I was around her of, hey, let's go hook up.
Yeah.
We weren't trying to hook up. We were being cordial and friendly.
We were being friends. Because like I even came and met our oldest son. I'm not his biological mother, but I feel like I am. But I came to meet him when he was born, even with your wife then.
Right.
You know, like I came to your mom's and met the baby.
You just love meeting my girlfriend.
No, I
put
it
you
wasn't
through a
a weird thing. Like I wasn't being shitty.
We were friends.
I wasn't showing up like that. And your wife was fine with it. She like introduced me to her baby. Like she was happy I was there. Right. Like it wasn't a weird thing.
They all knew what time it was.
It wasn't a weird thing. But like that's what I mean. It wasn't like we were some shady thing, but like I know what you mean. So we had suppressed feelings and just kept each other as like a friendship.
Right. So I'm in the halfway house. Now I've got a fucking cell phone. I've been locked up. So
I wish I had the text.
My shit is here.
That you started sending once you warmed up.
What did it say?
I don't even know, some crazy stuff. He was laying it all out there, trying to seduce me.
So I don't think so at first.
Not at first, but I mean it took
So I get to the halfway house. I got a cell phone now. I've not really had a cell phone. I definitely didn't have
a smartphone.
A fucking Facebook. We had MySpace where I went in, and it wasn't something we do all the time.
Yeah.
It's just something you had. So I got me a phone. I don't know how to use it. I'm calling Lesa. I'm talking to Lesa. So at the time, I was kind of talking to this other girl, and I'm talking to Lesa because, like, I'm thinking me and Lesa are just friends, or Lesa and I are just friends. And I'm telling her that I was thinking about talking with this other girl, and you were like, don't do that. This is exactly what happened.
I don't think we should share this. This is too personal.
So I was like, hey, I'm going home this day. I've kind of been talking to this girl. And Lisa's like, and this is out of nowhere. This is 10 years after the fact, or however long it was. 5, 8?
No, it had been probably 8 years since we
probably like 8 years since we broke up. And had sex, anything like that. And she was like, if you don't do that, then I'll be home in a week or two. I'm thinking we're just friends. I'm like, I'm in the halfway house. I'm like, what'd you just say? And she's like, if you don't do that, then I'll.
It was a bad choice, man. I was trying to save you.
You did. I remember I was like, holy fuck. I got a phone. Oh, I took off running back in the halfway house, telling all my buddies, like, holy shit. So. And that's funny, my timeline's messed up, but one time you took my car, remember? That was on a visit. So, let's get back to my story. So that's the 4th of July that she came home. So after that, she never left, basically.
I did leave. I had a whole ass life. I lived in Minnesota and Florida, and I was like, that's the middle of my career.
But as it came down to it, like that was the build-up for it. And then my part was I flew down to get her, but in my head, I thought that we were under the understanding you weren't going home.
I think that, like, I wanted that, but I still was trying to be logical, and that
you were making the plans, but, like, I feel like we were both like, you were like, so I'm going to go live in this town in this house. And I was like, yes.
Right. I think that in, like, my logical mind, I thought I had to live somewhere besides here to, like, find success and to be happy. Um, and I think that that's just not always the case. I think sometimes we chase something, and I'm grateful I moved away. I don't really regret much of anything I've done in my life, and I'm grateful I moved to Tampa and I had a lot of great experiences. I'm grateful for the sales job. I think that showed me, which should show anybody, like sometimes we have our heart and mind set on something. Like mine was money only. And yeah, it's nice to have money. It makes life easier, but not at like the expense of your mental health or your relationships and stuff. And like it took me going through all that to realize like I would rather have good relationships and like love in my life and find happiness in life than just like money, money, money. Like that's not it, like that's not the end all. It was miserable. So,
Everybody's got to find their way to make money.
you have to find your way in something you actually enjoy. So like I've always wanted to be in like social work and help people. You know how I am. I want to help everybody. And everyone talked me out of that in college because I wouldn't make any money. Well, my heart's still there. And I think I would have made money if I had just stuck with where my heart is. And someday I'm going to use the money that we make and do something with social work related, like with helping people and kids. I just haven't figured that out yet. But like, I think you got to follow your heart. And I know that sounds so lame, but like you do because you love excavation and tractors. And like Jesse's love for that. I love business, but I didn't know what my passion was. So I couldn't be successful until I had someone like him who like we were able to focus on your passion. So I'm passionate about what you're doing. I don't want to go run equipment all day, but I have passion for our business together. And so sometimes things come to you in a weird way like that. And you just gotta, sometimes like I felt like I was failing when I hated that job I got that I thought was like my career job. That's where I was gonna be the millionaire. But it wasn't. Like, look, it brought me to where I needed to be, which is here with you, with our family and our business. And like, God, I feel so grateful for that. Like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be in it. And it didn't feel like it then. It was depressing then and horrible. And I thought I was failing at life. So life's weird like that because, yeah, we haven't been apart since. So we got to your rental and I never left. And then from there on, here we are.
So we got together there. And now I'm home from prison. She's quit her job and moved back home pretty much. So we still got the parent issue to deal with, like, which wasn't a big deal because how old were you when you moved home?
28.
28. So Lisa's been away from home, out of the nest for
a
10
long
years.
time. Yeah.
And
I moved out on my own when I was right before my 19th birthday. So I was supporting myself for a long time.
Right. And so I think we went and had dinner with them, right?
Yeah, my parents were not excited about me rekindling this relationship
Not
with
at all.
Jesse. Obviously.
I mean, what do I got to talk about?
Obviously,
Golly, you put me through some things.
So have you put me through some things? But yeah, I mean my parents are divorced. Like I said, my dad and stepmom are practical people, professional people. They were logical about why it didn't make sense that I would date you.
Right.
And they were right. Looking back, like everything they said made sense.
Right.
And I remember saying to them, like, look, I am 28. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm not an idiot. I've made it this far in my life. I've supported myself all these years. I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to see where this goes and whatever, I can do what I want pretty much. And they were shockingly kind of accepting of me saying that, being direct about that. Like, I appreciate your opinion, but I kind of don't care because I'm a grown woman. So,
right. So we had that dinner. Might have went over there one other time after we got home, and then my next time,
like holidays maybe.
Yeah, the holidays, and then the next time was because I mean we're talking like a year, maybe not a year, but how long were we together dating before I proposed?
A couple years. I moved home in 2015. God no. Moved quick, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We had a
we
house
got married
like
in
3 months later.
2017. That's
Right.
crazy. I can't believe I did this. That's not my normal behavior, but I'm glad.
I'll put it on her, boys.
Rico Suave.
Came home from prison
Rico
in shape.
Suave.
Tricked you. No.
You didn't though. Look
No,
at
I
you
didn't
now.
trick you. I got you.
So my parents are super practical and logical, and they had like good reason to be concerned about this rekindled relationship. Because when I dated Jesse when I was like 18, they were obviously absolutely against it because he was like just getting out of his drug dealer era. And they even caught us one time, and like it led to a whole ass Southern Illinois police chase after me. So we have to
Like
tell
Bonnie and
we'll have to tell
Clyde.
this really quick. So multiple times, not multiple. I usually could scapegoat them finding me at Jesse's because I'd hide my car in his mom's shop at her house. But one time I was supposed to be at my mom's house in Redbud, Illinois, which is like an hour from here,
At least.
an hour from where we live. And
Or maybe 45 minutes.
she
I don't know.
had met Jesse a few times and realized he was trying to change his ways and was more open-minded to like our relationship because she is like more accepting. And so I was like, hey, I want to go to this dirt bike race with Jesse on Friday night. So can I do that and stay with him? And then I'll come up Saturday and see you Saturday and Sunday. And she's like, sure. So I regretfully lie, of course, to my dad and stepmom and say, like, Friday I'm going to my mom's. So I leave and go to Jesse's. We go to this dirt bike race. And we walk in and we're walking. There's like a huge crowd of people, and I hear someone yell my name. And I look up, and it was my oldest sister, who is one of my closest family members and dearest friends and is a great person all around. But she knew that I wasn't supposed to be dating Jesse, and my heart was like sunk, my gut sunk. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be sick. So we just like wave. We sit down in our seats for like 2 minutes, and I'm like, we gotta go. I'm gonna be in so much trouble. So we leave, and I immediately get a phone call from one of my parents, and the voicemail, I didn't answer, of course, because I'm freaking out. And the voicemail says, your ass is grass. And I was like, fuck, I don't even know what that means, but I know that's something bad. And so now this is like 2006 maybe. So this is like before GPS and stuff. And so, and I don't know my way around. I still use GPS. Jesse does, but I don't. So like we're in Du Quoin, 30 minutes away from home. So I'm like, so I have to get him home.
Because I didn't never have a license.
Jesse, you don't even have your license back yet. So I'm driving him around. So, but I'm like, so I have family in law enforcement, and I just know that the police are probably going to be waiting for us at his house, at his mom's house. So I call my best friend, who's still
It's
one of my
never
best
good
friends,
when the drug dealer is dating a girl that the police could possibly be at your house.
waiting for you to show
Not because
up.
they called the cops, but because they are the cops.
So I call my best friend, who's still one of my best friends to this day, and I'm like, I need you to meet me on some crazy back road, pick up Jesse, take him home so I can get the hell out of Dodge. And she's like, what? So she does, of course, because she's a great friend. So we meet on some crazy back road that you've orchestrated, because Jesse knows all the back roads everywhere in Southern Illinois. So we go all this roundabout crazy way. And on the way there, I still wasn't answering my phone from my parents. And like did they tell me there was an APB, or did I find that out later?
Probably whenever I called you and told you that there's 3 cops in my driveway.
Maybe they told you. So,
Yeah,
well,
they
while
did.
we're on
Yeah, they did.
so we're on this back road. We're trying to back road it to meet my friend. And I see like a bunch of cops up ahead, like driving. And I'm like, shit. So I like pull off to a Kroger parking lot, park behind a van in my car. Mind you, I'm like barely 18. I'm in high school still. I was a senior in high school. So we like are sitting in my car, like, please don't see my car, please don't see my car. And luckily none of the cops are there on the main road. And they all are flying around, like different cops, state cops, county cops, city cops. I'm like, shit. Like I just know they're looking for me. I just know it. So they don't see us. We leave. We meet my friend in this dark back road. Jesse gets in with her. I'm like, see ya. I got to go try to get to my mom's house on every back road I can find, which mind you has no GPS. So I'm trying to get from Southern Illinois, like Carbondale to Sparta Redbud in the middle of nowhere off memory, and using roads that aren't normal, which is like, it's hard to comprehend that when you don't have GPS. But like for me, that was crazy. At night, no idea what I'm doing. I'm a kid. So I know I'm in super deep trouble. So I just don't want to go home. I want to go to my mom's to hide out. So that happened. So then later I find out, so I get to my mom's and I finally talk to my other parents, and I'm obviously in big trouble. But like I'm at my mom's, so she's like, just let her stay here till tomorrow night. She'll come home. And luckily my mom did that for me, because I was like, I'm in so much trouble, I can't go face them.
For me though,
but so we went away. So I flee, I get away. I never get stopped. I never get caught by the cops. Thank God. Make it to my mom's safe house for 2 days so I can figure out, like, I don't know, just decompress for my trouble. So Jesse gets in with my best friend and goes to his house. And what happens on your side?
when her friend's taking me, we're coming up the street to my parents' house. and they own some storage units right behind their house. And there was 3 Carterville cops sitting in the storage unit parking lot right there. And I'm like, damn it. And right as we passed the cops, they all got behind the car. We turned into the driveway. And this was the same cop that we've talked about in other stories. Kind of a buddy. I knew him, you know. Mm-hmm. And he got out and he's like, hey, there's a state cop. And it wasn't your family member. That's the worst part. It was another state cop.
Oh, it wasn't?
No.
I thought it was him.
No.
Oh, he wasn't at work, so he called his friends like, you gotta have a chat with this
and
guy.
He's like, there's a state cop down at the station. He wants to have a talk with you. And I was like,
Didn't they ask you, where's Lesa?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's like,
because they were expecting me to bring you home, and I didn't.
Yeah, because they pulled in. They thought it was going to be Lesa, and it was her friend. And they were like, where's Lesa? And I was like, I don't know.
I've been with this girl all night.
Been out with this girl. I don't know. And they said, well, there's a state cop down at the station. He wants to talk to you. And I was like, do I have to go? Do you got a warrant? Or are you just saying he wants to talk to me? And they're like, I highly advise you go talk to him. And I was like, well, tell him to have a good evening because I'm not going. I was like,
right, why don't you go?
Yeah, I was like, see you, boys.
I know, beat your ass.
Yeah, I didn't go. I was like, you're fucking nuts. If I ain't got no warrant and you're not arresting me, get on out of here.
So did they say, though, like, where's Lesa? There's an APB out for her?
Yeah. They're like, they're looking for her. I'm like.
Because they probably called. I don't know how that came up. They must have called him and like, Lisa's not here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they must have said, there's a fucking APB out. Because I remember when I finally talked to you once you got home, you're like, there's an APB out for you. And I don't know, I probably hadn't made it to my mom's yet. And I was like, fuck. Right. And I'm like frantically like, oh, and I made it. I avoided all of Illinois police and got there.
I don't remember our time frame either, but at some point I did go down and have dinner with your sister.
Yeah, later.
Was that later or before?
A few months after all that,
so we
after
got
that
through
happened,
that.
I talked to her and was like, he is working on changing, and like he had got this job at Hardee's.
What a horrible like display I had. Like I'd go meet your family and they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I walk to Hardee's. I don't know. I get drunk out by the dumpster.
You were trying though. I think, but like that was bad for me because I wasn't like a criminal. Like Jesse didn't care about stuff like that, but not me. Like I don't want that kind of thrill. That made me feel horrible. That whole interaction was awful. But that's what my parents, like they knew we were scheming. So we like did all that scheming, got away. I don't know. Like that's why they obviously later in life still didn't want this to be a relationship because like this guy is no good. Like look at this crap that
they love me.
They love
I love them.
Yeah, it's all good. But like I understand their concern up front because of that kind of scenarios where it's like I'm like fleeing from them to like hide away from them because I was trying so hard to date you against what they wanted me to do because I still lived with them. I was in high school.
Right. We would literally every time she'd come over, I'd go open the shop doors. She'd pull in.
Barn door.
Close the door.
Hide my car. And that's why I said in a previous episode I had terrible anxiety all the time and like didn't even know what it was. And because I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to lie to my parents. You know, I didn't want, but I knew, I really did back then see something in you that was more than what you were living. And
We've always been in love, baby.
I know. But like, I just saw your potential, I think. And even if it was just trying to slowly get off drugs and walking to Hardee's and helping you get a license back, like I knew deep down, you were more than what you were. And that's who you are today, like shows that. But yeah, so I'm glad that we were able to get to this point because back then it didn't seem like it would ever happen.
Right.
But
all right. Legoland, Cheap Thrills, and other good stories. So
no business chat tonight, just love stories.
Yeah, that way you guys find out how we got back together. I mean, it doesn't always have to be business. If you guys have any business questions that we can answer, we will. But we didn't go to school for business. We just happen to be running one.
Yeah.
So
we're
figuring it out, which is how most people do it. But listen back weekly. We appreciate you guys. Reckless Success. Thanks. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up. You can follow us on TikTok and YouTube at reckless.success, Instagram at recklesssuccess. We're on Spotify and all major podcast services. Hit that subscribe button, please. For more information on May Excavating, check out our website or TikTok. That's a wrap. Thanks.